In this video I'm going to show you a little bit about the basic task resolution system for Fortune's Wheel. This is basically what you'd be using for something like combat or an action like knocking down a door or picking a lock or something like that. I've got a couple of cards out here already. These are just basically what I'm using as shorthand for the characters involved, or it could be a character as the active force and a resisting force like a door. So this is our active one, this is our resisting one. Normally in the game you'd actually be using this from a character that you've predetermined using character creation, so you'd have a little bit more than just one card that you'd know of, but you'd only be using one of their elements. Because this is a physical task that we're doing here, it's going to be a combat. This one is going to represent the earth of the attacker, and this one is going to represent the earth of the defender, both people. So we've got a bit of a mismatch already in that this person is twice as powerful in their earth as this one. We have here the 6 of swords for the attacker and the 3 of wands for the defender. That's just context for us so that we know how skilled they are. When you play, the basic way of drawing a card and just relying on fortune is really incredibly simple. This is your base score. You won't have that as a card, it'll be on the character sheet, or you might have drawn this card for an NPC combatant just to get an idea of their skill. Very, very simply, you draw a card. This is the draw for this one, and this is the draw for this one. We've got the 3 of Pentacles and the 7 of Cups. You add them together for each. So here you've obviously got a value of 9, and here you've got a value of 10. This one is the more powerful. It's beaten this one by 1. So actually in this bout of combat, this set of exchange of parries and blows, this character, even though they're the weaker one, would have injured this one by 1 point of damage to their elemental energy track on their wheel. So this has characters effectively taken a point of damage. Now they could elect to shrug that off using fortune. They could spend some fortune, dispense with it and carry on, or they could take it as damage to their energy. Obviously they're still in the fight. We know this character's got 6 to start with at the moment on their energy anyway, so even let's say they have taken 1 point off, then they're still going to have 5 points that they can resist of damage before they hit 0. So you could then move on to playing another card exactly the same way, and you just keep going, adding cards to the draws to see what happens until one combatant or the other is either defeated or bows out of the combat. You can use the meanings of the cards to add detail to that. So going back to your little book, you can look up what the meanings of these 2 cards are and just see if that suggests a little bit about what's going on in that combat. So looking at the 3 of Pentacles, what you actually have for that upright day card is mutual commitment and collaboration, a unity of purpose. That's suggesting to me that this particular attack was a well-considered one, perhaps coming from this person's superior training. Nothing wrong with what they were doing, they weren't fumbling the attack or anything like that. Looking at the 7 of Cups, on that card, it's about creativity, discovery, and supernatural vision. We actually saw that one come up in the earlier character creation. Now, this is suggesting that actually why this person won that particular bout in the combat is possibly down to the fact that they just spotted a weakness or an opening and exploited it very successfully. So you can get a little bit more depth to the whole thing rather than just a numerical resolution. We can see here that actually this was a cunning blow. It was very perceptive and skillful, and it's enabled this character to do something that perhaps normally they wouldn't have been able to. As I say, you just keep on working like that, and eventually the combat will be resolved. I'm not going to play through the whole thing because I think probably you've got the basic idea there. However, this is very, very basic at the moment, because there is a little bit more to it than that. You can actually also factor in edges and distractions. These are basically just positive or negative modifiers. Let's say that they were both fighting in a very slippery environment. They both might have a distraction value of 3 applied, which would be -3 on all of their cards that they draw. But to be honest, affecting both of them, it really wouldn't have made very much difference. If one of them, let's say this character, was on terrain that was very unhelpful, they might never have scored that particular blow. Likewise, if this person here was wearing armour, giving them a protective edge in combat, then again, they might never have taken this blow. The same would go if we were to factor in their weapons. Let's say we've been assuming that they're using weapons of equal ability. Perhaps they've both got swords which are giving each of them an edge of 2. Then, again, it wouldn't have changed the results. But let's say this person is unarmed and has no edge, but this one has a weapon that's giving them an edge of 2. Then actually, this one would have been the one who won out in that combat. At least, you might draw level and have a stalemate or an actual injury to the opponent because one of them has a blade. Again, edges and so on can be created with cards. You can do that randomly, but we will be adding in the actual game tables and lists of potential edges so that you can get a feel for how those work. And that really, in a nutshell, is the basics of combat itself. You'll find in the actual quick start and in the main rulebook there'll be some tools for resolving issues for healing, and you'll be able to read a little bit more about this thing about using fortune to shrug off damage, which is actually rather important to the game. A lot of the time we'll find in situations people will be spending fortune to try and either manipulate the cards so that they come out favourably, or to do things like shrugging off damage. The winner of the fight, by the way, would end up probably accruing quite a bit of fortune from doing this that they could then use to heal up their injuries if they wanted. It is a system that basically allows for people to kind of have like a dramatic sense of injury rather than a totally realistic one. It's more filmic and narrative, because you don't really want your heroes to end up getting completely wiped out by their injuries. They tend to shrug it off and keep going. But anyway, that's basically combating Fortune's Wheel. Very, very straightforward.